First, I want to again congratulate also Johanna and thank her for involving us in this nice project, and also inviting me to give a short talk on how we from Ghent University and specifically from our research group MICT are looking at sustainability, sustainable problems. As our Vice Rector Mieke van Herwegen already told, sustainability is an important aspect at Ghent University. And from our research group from MICT, we try to tackle this by looking at the people, by empowering people, and doing this through different ways, doing user research and also via methods as design thinking. But first, let's have a look at which are the three pillars on sustainability. So also there we have, of course, the planet, the environment, which is very important. We have profit, so we have to have an economy that it's profitable, that gives people jobs, that makes people earn money. But then, of course, the people, they are very important. And if we want to create sustainability, we have to make sure that all these three elements are in balance with each other and are actually sustainable. So most of these sustainability problems are actually caused by human behavior. If we look at how food is produced, we actually start from the planet, from our environment. We shape our environment, we transform our environment to produce as much food as possible, to produce as much food as efficient as possible. Then we also look at preparing this food. And in most cultures around the world, we have a lot of traditions that involve food and offering food to people. So in most cultures, we invite people, being friends, being family, maybe colleagues from work. I think if we weren't having this conference online, probably we would be already thinking of the lunch we would be having together or the dinner we would be having together with all of us. And one thing that is also typically when we have these food gatherings is that we want to offer plenty of food. We don't want people to feel that they don't have enough food. So also there is a very cultural aspect about offering food to other people and offering as much as possible food so other people can enjoy it. So due to our social behavior, in most settings, there will be plenty of food, but a big part of this food will go to waste. So an easy solution for this would be to say, okay, we have to change human behavior. And there are different ways of changing human behavior. Government has tried a lot of ways to change behavior. I think now in the pandemic, we see that governments try to change behavior of people, but this is not always easy. People are used to their patterns, used to their traditions, used to their habits, and changing this behavior is very difficult. So, to quote maybe someone that has been quoted a lot, we cannot solve our problems, and definitely not sustainability problems, with thinking in the same way we used when we created these problems. So we have to think differently. And I think there is the core of the method that we call design thinking. So design thinking is, it's not only a method, it's also a very new way or old way of thinking that has been reintroduced not only in design education, but also in management, in a lot of business, in order to be innovative and in order to tackle more, as also Johanna said it, more wicked problems, more societal problems. So apart from being a way of thinking, it's also giving you a bit of a structure, a bit of a method by going through different phases. So let's look at these phases a bit more in detail. First, you try to understand the problems. So by empathizing, by defining where are the problems and where are the problems situated, by which people are they situated. Then we try to explore. So when we find who we are talking about, when we define which are their problems, their needs, their desires, we can start by ideating, by exploring different ideas. So we call this diverging and converging, this creative mindset. And we always select ideas and then put them into tangible prototypes in order to test which things are work, which things don't work, and then we iterate on them. So you see a lot of these arrows. So we focus a lot on iteration. And at the end, but for design thinking, it's never the end, when tests prove that some of the ideas are good enough, some of the prototypes do work, we try to implement them as soon as possible in their ecosystems. But then again, it's not because we have found one solution or part of a solution that when it's implemented, we do not keep iterating and research again and try to understand better what the implementation gives for new problems. So at our research group, in order to help our students, our researchers with this design thinking method, we also developed a user innovation toolbox. As I said, we start with the people, we start with the user, and you have lots of techniques in order to better understand the problems, to better find solutions for these problems. So with the user innovation toolbox, it's a big toolbox with all kinds of techniques. We offer ways, we offer paths. It's like a GPS for guiding you towards the solutions that tackle these problems. So if we start with the first phase of the design thinking process, there we look at changing this human behavior. We first start with understanding the people. So we observe, we ask people about their lives, about their needs, about their desires, about their wishes, and we build persona. Personas are models of our users that can help within the design process to represent these users and take their message, their stories with us. So by doing these interviews, we try to uncover their emotions. We try to understand why they behave, and we try to understand the way they behave. So the message here is we need to seek for the stories that are behind the people. So there are different techniques and tools, as I mentioned. And also I like to point out this figure. So this is a model made by Stappers and Sanders from Dutch University. So, and it really gives a good image on what we need to investigate. So we look firstly at what people say, what people think. We can do this by doing interviews, by asking them questions, by doing surveys, but there we get very explicit knowledge. if you want to dig deeper, it's already good to start with observations. So not asking people why they are doing things, but just looking at them and seeing why they do things they do, seeing patterns, how they use things. So focusing on this more observable knowledge. And we can dig even deeper. So one of the things we do a lot are co-creation sessions. So we involve users, very interdisciplinary, different users, different stakeholders, and we work with them together working on their solutions, trying to figure out not only what they say or what they do, but actually what they want, what they feel, what they dream. And most of the time, a lot of the people we see, a lot of the users we investigate already started finding solutions for their own problem. Sometimes they didn't know it, so it's more latent knowledge. Sometimes we have to bring this knowledge that maybe one of the users have already found one solution for their problem. We have to make it more tacit. We have to provide the technology, we have to help them, we have to empower them. So, and this is what we do in the second phase. So we try to create human-centric problem statements. So when we define who is the user, empathize with the user, we try to redefine a bit what are the problems. So we start with these needs of the people, their desires. We then look at possibilities of technology, what is feasible, and we combine it with the viability of new business models. We look at which are the requirements to also be successful. Maybe also look at regulations that are in place. And then we focus on all these different stories. For example, how can we help these farmers? Is in Maharashtra in India. So their problem is they need to get stable prices for their milk. So we have to start looking at why are the milk prices fluctuating so much? Is it a governmental issue? Is it a global issue? And how can we help them? Or, for example, how can we help Kartika? Kartika each day goes to the market, but the problem is at the market, she has to sell the vegetables which are ripe at that moment, because if she can't sell these ripe vegetables, they go to waste. So maybe it's not a problem on dealing with the waste, but it's more an economical problem on selling the goods that are ripe at the right moment. The third phase on the design thinking deals with this ideation. So it focuses on creativity. You get inspired and you brainstorm and try within your brainstorm focus on more radical ideas. So a bit thinking out of the box. So going for creative and very open mindsets. So this is what we train our students, our researchers with creative thinking. And creative thinking is not so much about knowledge, but it's rather also an attitude. So open the mindset and get a lot of inspiration how other people do it, and don't be critical. So maybe a small story to illustrate this. So a long time ago, it was in the United States, there was this truck driver that wanted to go under a bridge. Unfortunately, his truck was too large. So he crashed into the bridge and his truck was stuck. All of people from the village came and looked, the policemen, the firemen, they all tried to find solutions, pushing the truck, pulling the truck, making it worse. But then there was one child standing, looking aside the road, looking at the picture from afar. And he said, hey, but why don't you just let out the air in the tires so the truck goes down? So they did. And they could rescue the truck. So with this story, I just want to say that you have to be very open and sometimes look from different perspectives. That's why we try to take these challenges also from an interdisciplinary view. And also I like here also that mostly children are very, very good at creative thinking. They look at the world differently, without prejudice, without rules that are already in place. And this can help with this talent creation of creative thinking. Next, we try to prototype. So when you have ideas, even crazy ideas, you build stuff. You build stuff to see what works and what doesn't work. So don't be afraid to hack things, to be a bit creative. So next, we test things. We test the things to understand people. So here is a nice example. You see two plates. The two plates have the same amount of food. But when these plates are offered to people, a 3 centimeter in diameter reduction, when you see on the right side, so the smaller plate offers 26% reduction in food waste, because people think the smaller plate has less food, so they will eat all the food, while the bigger plate looks bigger and they leave the food. So a very simple design can already have a big impact, in this sense, 26% reduction of food waste. Another example, so going back to the buffet picture you saw in the beginning, if we start to asking why are people behaving the way they behave, take the buffet at a restaurant. One of the problems is that people fill their plate with as much food as possible because they think it's free. So free food, okay, let's take as much food as possible on my plate, because if I take too much, that's no problem because it's free anyway. But I can only go once, and that is what most of the people think. So they placed this sign at their buffet in the hotel saying, welcome back again and again. Visit our buffet many times. It's better to come back than taking a lot at once. By only placing this sign, a very friendly sign, 20.5% reduction in food waste was constated. So testing these things helps us to understand people, understand their behavior, and why food is wasted. And once you implement these things, you can start to empower people. And you see a lot of examples happening throughout the world. It's called also positive design. So here you see examples. This is in the London Metro, that are used to reduce taking the stairs and taking the escalators, and improve people to be a bit more moving, and so improving their health. Another example is this. So by informing people, we try to implement these design issues in the real world in order to empower these people. And maybe by doing so, save a bit the planet, as you can see in this example from WWF. So this was my 20-minute presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions later.
Thank you. It's really interesting. Professor Jelle, I think in Indonesia, because we are like really lazy to walk, maybe we should have all those design and road or everything, so that we can actually try to walk a little bit more.